Hello.
Hello, welcome to our series of videos of seniors real estate services today. I'm laughing too much. Hi, Denise, how are you?
I'm good, Sandra. How are you?
Perfect. I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yes. Welcome everyone to our. This is our last show of our fourth season. So we are closing out this season with a very special guest, but we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves. So we are real estate agents with Keller Williams. I am a senior real estate specialist and worked in the healthcare field for 40 plus years and transitioned into full-time real estate agent and specializing in helping seniors. So we're just bringing this information out to all of you, just to give you resources and give you information and just sharing information. That's our goal here. So like I said, this is our fourth season. We've had a lot of great guests on our show. And after the season is over, we've been doing a happy hour to thank everybody for participating and so everybody can meet everybody else in person. And that's going to be happening next week on March 16th from 4 to 6 at Butterfields on Old Willets Path in Hauppauge. So we invite you all to attend.
Hi, Kathy.
And hi, Kathy. And what else? Sandra's going to ask me, where they find you, Denise?
I didn't say anything. I'm just being pretty.
So you can find me on Facebook, obviously, because if you're probably on my Facebook page, LinkedIn, Instagram. Follow me, see what's going on in the real estate world. And it's a crazy market out there right now. But
yes, still crazy.
It is. Yeah. We had a senior real estate luncheon today. Featured an attorney who has been on our show, and she talked about trusts and protecting your assets. We're going to have another one coming up. So stay tuned to our website. Facebook page as
Facebook
well,
page.
and which is Senior Services Resource Group. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Jean. Hi, Joanne. Welcome. So, okay, Sandra, you want to talk about yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Sandra Roman. I'm a real estate agent, and you find me everywhere as Sandra Roman Real Estate, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I serve a lot of people in Spanish, of course, and learning a lot about seniors. And what else, Denise? That's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it. You said it all.
Okay. So tonight we have Nicole Christensen is with us tonight. Very happy to have her here. She is founder and CEO of Care Answered, which is a healthcare coordination and patient advocacy company. And she's also an author. So she's going to tell us all about that. Hi, Nicole.
Hello. Thank you both for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
And welcome everybody that's watching. Thanks for taking your time out today.
Hi, Sue.
So I am going to get started, if we don't mind, with information. So one of the things that is...
No, first, where can they find you?
Oh, first. Okay, so Nicole Christensen, you can find, and Care Answered is the name of the company. You can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You can email us at Nicole@careanswered.com. And you can find us on the web at careanswered.com. So we're everywhere you want to be. That was a commercial sometime.
Yes.
So what I'm talking about is how to advocate for yourself or your loved one. It's a very interesting and challenging process for a lot of people. And guess what? We all need it. If you're a patient, which if you're taking care of yourself, you are, we all need some advocacy. So I'm going to give you some tips and tools on how to do that for yourself and for the people that you love so that you can be a helpful caregiver and get them the care that they truly need.
Nicole, hold
Yes.
on. Explain me something because I start with the questions, of course. Explain me what it's advocacy. How you say
Advocacy.
it? Advocacy.
Yes, good question.
What is it? What is that?
An advocate, a lot of times people think of a lawyer as an advocate because that was kind of like the original profession for advocacy. But it's somebody speaking out on your behalf. They're your champion so that you get what you need. So that's basically what an advocate is. And as a patient advocate, it's the same thing. We speak out for our clients or patients so that they can get the care that they need. Care answered in a line, we get healthcare done.
Okay. Anybody can be an advocate?
Well, I'm a board certified patient advocate, and I've had 20 years of experience doing it. But we can advocate for our loved ones, those close to us, and so that they can be better informed to make the best decisions for their unique healthcare needs. So that's what I'm going to talk about. The other thing is, that's a great question. The other thing is that not all of us consider ourselves caregivers, right? But it's most of us. And it can feel very, very lonely to be a caregiver because you're so much doing all of these things to provide care as well as taking care of your own life. It can be very lonely, and we think that there are not people that quite understand what we're going through, but it's most of the population. And I want to share with you some statistics really quickly. So 2 out of 3 workers are providing care for an adult relative. 2 out of 3.
Wow.
Working caregivers report those obligations significantly affect their work life. 49% of the U.S. workforce will be providing care in the next 5 years, okay? And 48% have provided care in the last 5 years. So you don't have to be a mathematician to figure out that's almost everybody we know, anybody. So it's 99%. So we're not alone at all. But we need to come together and get the information so that we can do the work and take care of ourselves as well. Also, just so you know, all of those who are employed by somebody else or just wanting to know, caregiving costs about $36 billion annually in the US from loss of economy. So that means absenteeism, right? Because we're taking care of the adult loved one, or what I call presenteeism. We're there, we don't know what we're doing to provide care, so we're Googling everything and trying to figure it out on our own. So it's, again, we're not alone. So I'm going to tell you some bad news and then tell you the good news that follows it and what are the solutions, okay? So this is information pre-COVID. So the third leading cause of death in the United States is preventable medical error. So it's just behind heart disease and cancer, okay? So these are the preventable medical errors that happen in hospitals. That's not even counting those that happen in other healthcare facilities or at home. So the numbers are a bit staggering, but again, we'll get to the solutions. So diagnosis errors, there are about 80,000 of those annually. Hospital infections, again, this is pre-COVID, are 90,000 annually. 1.5 medication errors happen annually. And there's still about 2,000 wrong site injuries that happen, wrong site surgeries that happen. So it's supposed to be my right knee and they operated on my left knee.
Wow.
Falls are also common in hospitals, and 26% of those lead to injury. So these are pretty staggering. I will say that this year, just a few months ago, I was interviewed by Newsday here on Long Island to talk about the fines that happen now to hospitals that have patients that come back for the same condition, injuries from falls that happen within the hospital, and infections that happen in the hospital. So they're now being fined, which isn't great for hospitals, but it is working toward improvement, right? Unfortunately, what we see more often than not is when our pocketbook gets pinched, that's when change starts to happen. So I'm hopeful that these numbers will be lower in years coming. The other thing about caregivers in general, I don't have the statistic in my head right now, but I know that the likelihood of being a caregiver and then falling more ill than the person you're caring for is very, very high. Okay, so we have to take care of ourselves because you've heard it before. You got to put on your oxygen mask before you can put it on somebody else, or the expression of we have to fill up our own pitcher before we can pour ourselves out. These are absolute true things, and they're not to be taken for granted. It can kill you if you do not take care of yourself or get the help with you, and actually get the help with your caregiving. So just stress alone, we all know that stress is bad, right? We've heard it over and over again. Hopefully we're willing to do a little something about it, those of us that can. So the truth about stress is it's attributed to 75% of doctors' visits. So that's 75%. And it's linked to 6 causes of death, directly linked. This is just stress. So what are those things to do? Some of them you may have heard before, but I want you to really think about it and take action on it. You know, I've spoke with a lot of my psychologist friends and colleagues, and it's just so vitally important. First of all, everybody that's here, congratulations. You're doing something that's for stress relief. You're learning, you're with people, even though we're virtually. Those kinds of things are really helpful for us. The other thing is nature, going out in nature, take a walk, exercise, meditation, talking with friends. Another tip is 3 to 1. So when you have a negative thought, which comes unfortunately pretty naturally to us, you have to try to think of 3 positive thoughts just to kind of negate that negative thought. The one other thing is make space in your day. You don't win an award for just piling things on top of each other in your day with no space in it. You don't have time to actually take it in. It stresses you out more. Put that space in. You will actually be more productive. And lastly is write down the things that are ruminating in your head, because sometimes when you bring light to it, when it makes it easier. It's a real thing. When you just keep on thinking it over and over in your head, it can make it scarier and more stressful than it really is. So sometimes writing it down can be really helpful. All right. So now let me just tell you a little bit about my why, right? So why do I do this? Why am I talking to you? So as I mentioned briefly, I'm a board certified patient advocate. I've had over 20 years of experience. And unfortunately, when I started, there are still some of the same issues that people are facing in regard to advocating for their best care and the coordination of care. And also, I have personal reasons because it's happened to my family. Preventable medical error has caused the death or deconditioning of loved ones, and it's devastating. So let's talk about the tools that we can put together and help our loved ones and our friends. So one of the things is the Take Charge campaign. Now, this is done by Pulse Center for Education and Safety. That's a nonprofit in New York. They do excellent work. And this Take Charge campaign has 5 steps. The first one is healthcare proxy and advanced directives. Those who have ever spoken to me probably have heard me speak about this ad nauseum. What is a healthcare proxy? That is somebody who can speak on your behalf if you are incapacitated. So they can speak on your behalf medically if you're incapacitated. So what tends to come to people's minds are things like to be kept alive on a respirator, right? Unfortunately, we did a lot of pro bono calls during the height of the pandemic for situations like this, in which the person didn't have a healthcare proxy. Their loved ones didn't know what to do. Obviously, you're in crisis now. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to say. And then the clinicians have to kind of make that decision on their own. They don't know this person. It's so important to have a healthcare proxy so that they can speak your voice. They're not really making decisions for you. They are just voicing your decision.
I have a question, Nicole.
Sure.
How many people in your experience have you seen that don't have? Like
Most
of them?
Most
So
people do not have a healthcare proxy.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Most people do not have a healthcare proxy. And when do you get a healthcare proxy? Age 18. Okay. We've all heard likely the horror stories of some people's children going off to college in a different state, and God forbid they get into an accident. The parents are calling saying, what's happening? This is what we need done. And the clinicians on the other side or the healthcare facility is saying, we can't talk to you. This person is an adult. There's no healthcare proxy on file. There's no HIPAA paperwork. That devastation is, I can't imagine. It's got to be unlike anything else, especially when you can't get there quickly. So if you have a healthcare proxy, you help your semi-adult, right? 18. I don't know, that's negligible if they're an adult. But your 18-year-old get that healthcare proxy, it's done. It's done. They're going to call you immediately, especially obviously if you're selected as the healthcare proxy. So, and it's not just those kinds of decisions, because most of the time, if you're incapacitated, it's only for a little while, right? Like, God willing, something happened and then you came out of it. But you're still not in your full capacity because you're injured or you're hurt or you're scared, right? So that healthcare proxy, it's not just the paperwork that's important, it's the conversation. So, and what you wanted at 18 is not going to be necessarily the same thing you want at 30. So that conversation needs to be ongoing. It could even be that the healthcare proxy you had selected at 18 is no longer the same person you would want to do that at age 30. So you have to review it and have this conversation. They should also know about your medications because, again, God forbid an emergency happens. They need to know that information so for example, if one gets into a car accident, they're trying to figure out what's going on right then, right? Emergency room is doing triage. They may not know that you're on a blood thinner because they don't have that information. So they may do something that can hurt you. Okay. So your healthcare proxy is not just, pull the plug or don't pull the plug, because that's what people think of. They're there to actually vocalize for you. Because even if you have full capacity in that situation, you might be scared or forget to say these things. So it's really, really important to have a healthcare proxy. And Care Answered can help you facilitate those discussions, have the healthcare proxy filled out, the paperwork, update people, have, again, that ongoing discussion, as well as give you a card with a QR code that again, if you're incapacitated, the healthcare facility can scan it and they'll know exactly who to call. And it can be put in your patient portal as well, if you wish. So that's healthcare proxy.
I have
you have a million questions.
Million questions. What happens when it's the husband and the wife? Do I need a healthcare proxy for my husband?
Yes.
For me to be able to make decisions?
Yes. So,
Ooh.
Yep.
In Mexico, you don't need a healthcare proxy for your
in
husband.
New York,
in Mexico, that's why I had that idea, and I'm like,
in New York, the policy is that it automatically would go to the spouse, but I have seen times that they didn't do that. So get your healthcare proxy, because if for whatever reason somebody doesn't understand the policy, doesn't understand the law, doesn't, in a crisis situation, you don't want hiccups. So get that done. Healthcare proxy, again, Care Answer can help you. Let me tell you, it's a form. You fill it out. It's available online. You need 2 witnesses. What you don't want, it's not even notarized. What you don't want to have is healthcare proxy by surprise, because healthcare proxy forms don't actually, in the state of New York, or actually in any state, don't actually have the signature of the healthcare proxy. It has the signature of the 2 witnesses and the person. So make sure that it's not healthcare proxy by surprise. And I've seen it a lot, but those discussions are really being made. So that's an excellent question.
So Jean, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second, because Jean says that St. Catherine's refused access into the ER, and I had a proxy in hand. So how can that be? And a medical proxy. Why would they? So they wouldn't let her into the ER.
Was this during COVID?
We don't know.
Because if it was during COVID, I got a lot of calls on that too.
No, I'm pretty sure. Well,
we had to fight a lot because you could only go in certain situations.
Yeah, during COVID.
Oh, she said yes. Yeah.
Yeah, certain situations. So I had to advocate for a lot of people. I did that a lot, to say that they were needed to be there. It took more than just healthcare proxy during COVID. Generally speaking, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Meaning you have to convince them that this is a life and death situation, or this person can't speak for themselves.
She said her husband was not coherent. Yeah. So.
And we did a lot of that pro bono. Now, medication list. We should all have if we take a medication, we should have a medication list. A medication list, and that should be on us. Our healthcare proxy should have it as well. Okay. And you bring that to every doctor's appointment. So what I mean by that is it's your medication, the dosage, what you take it for, when in the day you take it, and if you can, who prescribed it. Okay, you should have that on you all the time. Just the example that I just mentioned before is one reason. The other reason is for any doctor's appointment, because people think that it's somehow it is coordinated, right? The doctor that prescribed it is going to know that I'm on that medication. It's not the case. Do not assume that.
They don't have like a list?
They
don't have like a list or something? I thought that information they share it with.
Have you ever gone to the doctor? Have you ever had this situation? I think most of us have. And they come into us and they ask us these things, and you're like, I just said that. I just told you that. You have to go under the assumption that they have no recollection. They didn't have time to look through the computer screen. They didn't have time to read your file. Go under that assumption. Do not go under the assumption that they have it all. It's the same thing when we go to a doctor's appointment and we had a test done and they say, we'll call you if anything's wrong. No, because especially with staffing issues right now, right? Somebody could just as well just forgot to tell you. It happens all the time. No news is not good news. You contact them, you say, I had a test on this day. What were the results? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, yeah, we were going to call you. Not that it's negative, but they're supposed to call you. But oftentimes when it's negative, do not think, when it's, I'm sorry, if it's showing up a test that says something is going on, do not automatically assume they're going to call you for that. And if you don't hear it, then everything's fine. Don't, just call. So always be under that assumption. That's unfortunately the problem with our healthcare system. And that's why I founded Care Answered, is because we're in a time where it's very siloed and it's very broken, and the coordination isn't there. So we have to advocate for ourselves and loved ones. So prep for the doctor's appointments. I kind of mentioned this already. So that means you have your medication list, you have your questions you're going to ask, because you think that you're going to remember in 3 weeks of your doctor's appointment that the ailment that you are having and the concern you are having. You are not. You need to write it down, put it in your phone notes, whatever it is, so that you'll remember to ask about it. Also be prepared to write the answer to that question, either on paper or in your phone, or record it, what have you. Just make sure that you're getting the information. We only get 10, 15 minutes with our clinicians, generally speaking. We need to make the most of it, ask the questions that we need to ask, and get the answers that we need so that we can access our best care. The other one, the fourth, is prevent infection. So we've heard it a lot, yes. But it did concern me that nobody knew how to wash their hands before the pandemic. But we need to continue. We wash our hands often. 20 seconds to the happy birthday song. We wash them thoroughly. We use hand sanitizer. We do all of these things when we're in a healthcare facility, often, right? But we also should do them in our homes, in our workplace, eating lunch, having a drink, whatever. We need to be washing our hands. But if you are in a healthcare facility or you're visiting somebody, you need to make sure that anybody that comes into your room, or the person who you love's room, have either sanitized their hands or washed their hands before they come in. And you need to make sure the same thing for yourself. That's how you advocate effectively and take charge of your own health. And the fifth of the Take Charge campaign is hire an advocate or have an advocate. So now all of you that are listening have had some tips. So you can be somebody's advocate or you can hire an advocate. Make sure you have somebody, because our loved ones, ourselves, when we're going into a situation in which our health is in jeopardy, or we're not feeling well, or we're nervous about not feeling well, or we're waiting for a diagnosis, we do not have a clear head. The reality is, medical illiteracy, healthcare illiteracy is very high in the United States. It's particularly high for those 65 and over. That means the ability to carry out on healthcare suggestions or programs that we're supposed to do. It's very low. And it doesn't mean we're not smart, that we're not intelligent, that we're not educated. It has nothing to do with that. I believe it has a lot to do with, it's a lot of information to take in, and it's hard to take it in, not only for the patient, but for those patients' people, right? Like your person, the person who loves you, is your ride and die. For them to hear information that you're sick is hard to take in. And then what to do after that is hard to take in. So have an advocate. It may not be the person closest to you that's your advocate. So keep that in mind. You have to have somebody, just same thing with your healthcare proxy. It's somebody that can voice your decisions. It's not necessarily the person who's closest to you. So these are really important things. So those 5 definitely take away from it.
I have another.
Sure.
I have another question. Now that you're saying that it's not the closest people to you.
It may not be. It may not be.
What's your recommendation? Something not that close, because when you're super close, you get like fussy.
Yeah, it really depends on the person, right? There are some people that they may be really close to you, but they're not great in a crisis.
It's not a good fit to be an advocate.
Yeah, and if they're not great in a crisis, or to be honest, if they're not well versed in these kinds of things, if they can't speak up, if they don't have a big enough mouth, whatever it is, they might not be the most appropriate person to advocate. The thing is that a lot of times people have what they call white coat syndrome. So when a doctor or clinician comes in the room, they're like, okay, okay, right? They're not really absorbing and they're not asking the questions because some folks have been raised to not ask questions of a doctor. They went to school, they're really smart, but guess what? We are the experts in our own body. Each one of us are the experts of our own body. So when we have something or we don't understand something, we must speak up. We must ask until we understand because our lives are at risk. We have to ask. I often say, even as an advocate, just speak to me like I'm 5. And it's not even important that I understand it. It's important that my client understands it. And so, because me understanding it or any advocate understanding it, that's great. But it's not my job, nor should it be, because I'm not a clinician, to then explain that when we get home, or let's Google it when we get home. We need to hear it from our clinicians.
Yeah, because sometimes, they talk the language every day and they forget that the other person, it's not in that everyday language.
Exactly.
And it happens to everybody. Really.
It happens to everyone. I say that all the time. That's a perfect point. Is we all have our own vernacular, right? In our business, in our family life. You can walk into somebody's, family reunion and you won't know what they're talking about, but they all know what each other are talking about. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. So and clinicians are humans too, right? So I'm not saying by any means that they are doing it on purpose, but they'll be stuck in their own vernacular. And if we don't understand it, we ask. If we still don't understand it, we ask again. In preparation for doctor's appointments, what I say is, I call it talk back. So the clinician says something, repeat what you think you heard. Then if it's correct, then it's good. You understand. And the clinician understands that you understand and everybody understands. Everybody's on the same page. If you repeat what you think you heard and it's wrong, it's a time that the clinician can correct it, right? Because they're like, oh, that did not land the way I had planned. So that they can repeat it in a way that you can understand it. And again, keep doing that talk back until you're actually saying what was said and that you understand it in your own words, obviously, but make sure that you understand what's being said because it's not something to play with.
Denise, we have some comments.
Yeah. Well,
Rosemary, hi. Thank you for watching me. That's
so I don't know what Diamond Rose. I don't know what Rosemary does, but she says she encourages her patients to ask providers if they wash their hands. So that's a good practice as well.
Yep.
Usually they come into the room and wash their hands, but
if you don't see it, do ask. Sometimes Pulse always says, they say, Eileen Karina says she brings Twizzlers. Like, if you wash your hands, I'll give you a Twizzler. So do whatever you need. Do whatever you need.
And Kathy says, is it true that Medicare patients are not treated as well as a self-paid insurance holder?
I'm going to guess you're talking about nursing homes. I'm going to guess. Or skilled nursing facilities. So it's very common for people to think that there's a nursing home that's for Medicaid and there's one that's for private pay. No, they're all Medicaid, they're all private pay at the same time. So as far as care is concerned, obviously that is absolutely illegal. And I really don't think, I'm not prone to being a cynic, but I really don't think the nurses and clinicians, they don't get paid any different, right? So it doesn't really matter to them how that person is paying. So I tend to believe, no, you're not going to get different care next to your you're another resident that's paying private pay if you're on Medicaid. But I do say whenever you're in a facility like that, I say to family members, when you're coming, make nice, because people are working really hard. And, bring some donuts, do all these things, come visit a lot. And I'm not saying it's bribery, but, when people are treated well, they tend to treat people well. So that's my answer.
After working in, and Sue will attest to this, working in nursing home for 10 years, family members used to bring stuff, used to buy us lunch, bring donuts, bring pizza, this and that. But you know what? Just say thank you, or just
Absolutely.
say, just
respect
talk to
and
people.
Kindness go a long way.
That's all. That we're not looking for donuts, people are, but a little conversation, a little appreciation, a little insight of, that goes a long way. Just
Absolutely.
saying.
I totally agree, Denise.
Kathy is saying not Medicaid, Medicare.
Oh, Medicare?
Mm-hmm.
As far as a skilled nursing facility or just a doctor?
Can
you tell us, Kathy? I don't know what you're referring to, but different providers take different insurance. No, they shouldn't treat you any differently depending on your insurance. Not at all. And there's a lot of doctors that take Medicare. That's not like only a few doctors.
Well, she's saying either. Yeah. So that
you shouldn't be treated any differently. And if you feel like you are, then you should call them on it. Certainly contact us and we can help you, because there is truth to clinicians, potential implicit bias, not treating people well. It happens. It's documented. I know it to be true. So if you feel like you're not getting the respect and care from a clinician, one thing, you can always contact us, but also recognize it might be time to switch clinicians. Because if you're not feeling respected, you don't feel like you're getting the care that you need, then you're probably not getting the care that you need. You aren't. You know yourself best. So you're not getting the care that you need. So it's time to switch. Sometimes people find it really difficult to switch doctors. And I understand, when getting another doctor might take months to get an appointment, that I absolutely get. But recognize and empower yourself, because if a clinician is not meeting your expectations, not treating you with respect, not answering your questions, it's time to find another clinician.
We also found that being in rehab, working in a facility, we spend a lot of time with the patients. So we became advocates for a lot of patients that didn't have family that would come and ask the questions. And, we would always see something, and Sue's still there, so she knows, we would see something and go to nursing. So what's going on with this? And, we didn't know, things like that. And so, yeah, it's just a little common sense, but
but it's not so common sometimes.
Right. Right.
And that coordination of care, that's what you want to see. What you're talking about is exactly what we want to see. What's happening here? But sometimes it goes overlooked. And sometimes it's because there is not enough staff. There's too much going on. So you have to advocate. You can't just be like, oh, I'm sure they know it. That's what people do too. They don't.
No.
They don't.
No. Sue says the nurses don't like them, which is true. Yep, they don't like being told that they're whatever.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. So I have a question.
Sure.
So let's say I want to hire you, and I'm hiring. I'm not sick right now, but I'm all alone. I'm gonna, I might get sick someday, and I want to make sure that somebody's advocating for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to you, and what happens?
Okay, so for somebody like that, the first thing that we would start with is the healthcare proxy and advanced directives to get that all taken care of. We at Care Answered really focus on transitions of care. So that is a transition of care, even though you're perfectly fine. But we really focus on after that, if something happens. So if you have a diagnosis that's catastrophic or chronic, or you're going to doctor's appointments and you feel like you need an advocate, we can do that. If you are going in or out of a healthcare institution, rehab, hospital, going into a nursing home, even an assisted living, going in and out of it. Those are really the transition spots that we work in. We also do a lot of work within community Medicaid to advocate for appropriate hours, as well as long-term care insurance. So if people already have long-term care insurance, we don't sell it. It's about when you need it, just like all insurances. You buy it. The hard part is to get your benefit. So we work on that, as well as appeals for all sorts of different claims of insurance or billing needs. So that's really our sweet spot, is where there's transition. So we're not necessarily, if I understood your description, in somebody's life for the rest of their lives. We hope to be there in those transitions, as well as empower people, so that when those things, something like that happens again, they feel like, I know what to ask now. I know what to do now. We love those calls when they're like, Nicole, you were in my ear.
So you're preparing me.
Yep.
So let's say tomorrow I end up in hospital. Then
I'm back on deck.
But how do they know that I have you as my advocate?
Well, first of all, I would already have set you up with your healthcare proxy. And again, we have the Honor My Health decisions. So you would have a QR code that said exactly who your healthcare proxy is. Okay. And then from that point, I would probably say again.
Then they call you from the healthcare proxy.
So the healthcare proxy, who is not going to be Care Answered. It's not going to be Care Answered. Whoever the person that you selected as healthcare proxy, because they make healthcare decisions for you. That's different from being an advocate like me. I advocate for your health. So basically, if you're in the hospital, they will know, your healthcare proxy should know that that you would like me as an advocate. They'll call me, and I will help coordinate care through them, because they're the ones that can speak on your behalf.
Gotcha. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah. So, what about, you didn't mention power of attorney, because it isn't that, I know maybe you can.
That's a good question. I am not an attorney, so I don't do powers of attorney. Yeah. Healthcare proxy and advanced directives do not need to be done by a lawyer. I work a lot with attorneys say you already have a healthcare proxy, I can put it in the system, and if you update it for any reason, and you want your lawyer to know, it would go to them too, as well as your healthcare proxy. And I always suggest that people have their power of attorney on that too, so that they're aware. So it's a great question, because a lot of times, stereotypically, this is what will happen with an older adult. So there is a daughter, we'll say, a daughter that lives close by, who is the healthcare proxy, and a son who lives in California, that's the power of attorney. Now, care costs money, right? So those two need to work together to get the best care. And sometimes, if they're not on the same page, if they haven't been on these discussions with mom, we'll say, then they could be battling each other, because like, oh, that costs a lot of money. Well, that's what she needs. Having all of these conversations. So I always suggest that the conversations, and what we try to facilitate, is that conversation, even though we don't do power of attorney. those conversations regarding healthcare happen also with the power of attorney, so that they know. But that is an absolute crucial thing to have in place as well, is your power of attorney. So let me just describe what a power of attorney. So a power of attorney makes financial decisions in if you are incapacitated. The thing to know, though, is insurance, medical insurance, which we would
It's a
think that's
financial
healthcare proxy. That's a financial decision, right?
Jeez.
So that's got to be healthcare. That's got to be power of attorney. So again, those two people, maybe they're the same person, what have you, they need to be able to interact, because it works just like if you're have full capacity, right? What you do with your insurance and your care costs money. There's always a financial part of it. So that has to be communicated.
If not, you're in trouble because they're disconnected anyway.
Yes, and that has happened. That has happened. I've definitely had, as an advocate, been an advocate for my clients, and the person that's providing the care, the caregiver, basically, has an idea of what can be done. They're generally the people that reach out to me, and the power of attorney is like, well, do we really need that? They're not in it. They're a caregiver of sorts, but they're not in the thick of it. So it's really important that those discussions happen.
Jeez.
Probably the biggest and hardest part is having the discussions.
Yeah. And the thing is, what I work and I get interviewed on this a lot, is the healthcare proxy. We have to remove the taboo. It's not anything to be scared of. Nobody dies of making a healthcare proxy. What we want is, and our program is called Care Control Partners, because that's really what it is. It's putting yourself in control of your care, so that, God forbid, you're incapacitated, even for a short time, somebody else is just being your mouthpiece. They're not making decisions. They've talked to you, so they're just saying what you want them to say. And so there are definitely times that I've heard of people that have come up to me that said they were the healthcare proxy, and they have nightmares all the time because they don't know if they did what that person wanted, because they were healthcare proxy, but they did not have those discussions.
Yeah,
So those
to have.
are so important. And there's actually a healthcare decision day. I believe it's April 16th, because, the only thing that we know is death and taxes. So they put it right after tax day. But it should be a normal conversation. We've all heard those horrible stories, right? Of somebody, that woman in Florida, I don't remember her name, but somebody that was on, I think, a feeding tube or a breathing apparatus, and the family was infighting. So it was tearing the family apart, because they just didn't have those discussions. It's not worth that. Do not do that to the people you love. Just have the discussions now.
Difficult discussions to have, especially when you already maybe have a diagnosis of something. I'm telling you, because in my family, my father, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And my mom, she is in denial. She is pretending everything is fine, everything it's not progressing, and they are not open to have this kind of discussions. And of course, my father is getting worse every day, and they have nothing in place. They have no power of attorney, no health, anything. And it's going to be a time that they're going to be in crisis, and we're going to be in trouble, because it's difficult in my case for my mom to open up and really talk about the elephant in the room. She doesn't want to talk about that because it's difficult for her to see him, and it's difficult for her to maybe accept that it's going to happen anyway.
Right. Yeah. And that's totally understandable. And that's why we have the discussion while we're healthy and well. Yeah. That's why we start the conversation when we're 18.
Yeah. It should be like part of the education since we are younger.
Yeah.
So when we are,
nobody's getting out of here alive.
yeah,
Right? Nobody's
so,
getting out of here alive.
So when we are at time that we need to really make, a decision, we are ready. We talk about it.
We've already processed it. Because people have different religious beliefs, different values, different things that they want in place, and they really do want it in place. And it shouldn't be something that we should be scared to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It really just shouldn't. It's just what you want to take control. Take control.
Yeah.
Take control.
But it's a better way to take control when you have everything in plan, when you have,
when you're perfectly
plans
fine,
in place,
you're going to live forever. That's when you make the plan.
Exactly.
Because you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
But it's also generational that, like, my parents, my aunts and uncles, we never talked about anything like this.
No.
We never talked about, like Susan was on last week, and planning for your death and things like that, and leaving your legacy. Nobody talked about any of that stuff. That just wasn't talked about. And
it was a taboo.
Yeah. So that's a big thing.
I remember I unfortunately lost both my parents, but when I was in high school, I remember my parents telling me that they bought their burial plot and that would be all taken care of. And I remember getting so sad. I'm like, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
And it was such a service that they did for myself and my siblings. It was such a service that we didn't have to think about all of those things. It was already taken care of. It was already the way that they wanted it. Just give that gift to everybody else. And that's after death. And I'm talking about when you're alive. So it's even more necessary. So, give that gift to your loved ones by taking that responsibility off and just telling them what you would like.
So Maria has a question. Hi, Nicole. Without formal medical training, how do you explain to patients or clients the many different scenarios that may occur, which should be taken into account when deciding a patient's wishes and desires and assigning a proxy?
Well, you don't need to know all of that. That's the truth of the matter, because I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. I can't know. None of us can know everything that's going to happen. And I'm telling you that we should start talking about this at 18. So there's no way that anybody's going to know. Who knows? By the time that 18-year-old is 28, they could just, clone the person. I don't know. So so we can't ever have all those understandings. That I think what you might be referring to is the advanced directives, the living will. So the living will has a lot of stuff in it. I've gone through it with people. There are definitely attorneys that agree and disagree with the living will. And so it's up to that person. For a living will, it tells you specifically different kinds of things, whether you're going to be in a chronic stage, your end of life, you're very near end of life. It has a lot of questions in it, and we go in it through detail. This is what we use as a software for insurances as well. So not that the insurance has all this information, but it's detailed, so it's broken down. And that discussion is a longer discussion that explains everything. It's really a wonderful tool. But we don't know what could possibly happen to us. It has like, what if you have end stage renal failure? Who's to know what's going to happen? But what you really need for the healthcare proxy, which is not as specific potentially as a living will, is to know the general guidelines. And even in a living will, the thing about a living will is that's a great tool for your healthcare proxy, but it holds no weight in a hospital or healthcare facility. It holds no weight. You would need a MOLST, which is a medically ordered life-sustaining treatment form, or it's also called a POLST, which is a physician ordered in different states. But I believe all 50 states have it now, and you can take it state to state. It's a bright pink form. You can take it with you. It's not just at the hospital. It's in your home, on your vacation, wherever you need it, so that people know exactly what you want. That's generally for people that have a prognosis of a year or less. But during COVID, they gave it to a lot of people because we didn't know what was going to happen, as we all know. Or I got it for a lot of people, I should say. But the point is that we can't know everything. Even a clinician, we have a clinician for each part of our body, right? So they can't know of everything that can happen, but you can have those thoughts about what you would wish. People talk a lot about, and I think this should be talked about, because people think of, not having food, not being able to eat. I don't want to starve my loved one. These are the conversations you have. It depends on maybe where you are. You can be as specific as you want. There are some people that say, no feeding tubes at all. Just let me go. There are some people that are like, do not starve me. But you won't know if you don't have those discussions. So there are life-sustaining treatments that are clearly delineated for the most used ones, I guess is the best way to say it. Do not resuscitate, do not incubate. These are things that we've probably heard of. Any kind of antibiotics, you can stop medications, those kinds of things. So it's not really the clinical. We can't discern what's going to happen to us at any point in time, but we can have those discussions so that our healthcare proxy knows what we would want.
Got it. Okay.
I know that was a lot. Sorry, that was a good question though.
Any other questions? You have 2 minutes.
I know. I had like so many things I was going to go over, and then like a few minutes into it, I'm like, I'm not getting through all this.
Sorry, we talk a lot. We ask a lot of questions.
Good. It's good. I appreciate that. But those 5 take charge things are really, really important. So just think about it, and that alone can really help you. And preparing for your doctor's visits can really help you to advocate for you or your loved one's best care.
Yeah, I started making lists when I go to the doctor because as soon as I get there, I forgot what I was going to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
But writing down and saying back to them what they said, now that's good because I don't do that.
And you know what happens? Well, I don't know you, but in my case, of course, I have to listen to the doctor in English and then go through my head and put it in words that I understand. And then you get lost in translation. So talking it back to them and say, oh, this is what you meant. Maybe it's a good idea to do because you're understanding something in my English and he's saying something in his English.
Right. Well, it's true that way. Even if you both speak the same language and then you have the same native tongue, that can still happen. It could feel like 2 different languages. But one last thing I want to say is what's underutilized by so many is their patient portal. I know sometimes they can be annoying, but you need to utilize them. They can increase communication between you and your healthcare proxy, as well as because they should have access to it as much as you want them to, but also you and your clinician. So what changed just 1.5 years ago was they changed it so that the doctor's notes are actually in your portal. You need to look at them. It helps you prepare for your next visit, yes, but it also, you need to go through it because, again, doctors, clinicians of all sorts also make mistakes. There have been times that people have looked in their portals and it has the wrong diagnosis. They had the wrong person in there. You got to fix that because it goes with you and with you and with you, right? So you need to make sure, and it also is a good way. I still stand by, write it down, put it in your phone, whatever, the answers to the questions. But it also can help you to know what the doctor said because oftentimes they'll put it in that portal. That'll be part of the doctor's notes. So really get used to that. And we have, again, those that we advocate for when they have a subscription plan, we have it so that you have a press of the button and you can get to all of your portals. We'll help to make that happen. And so that everybody can see everything about your care that you want to see.
Jean said, thank you. Have a good night. Lori said, thank you to Nicole. So informative. Looking forward to reading your book. And Sue said,
Tell us
great
really
information.
quick
Thank
about
you.
the book.
Yeah, I wrote it out, and here Nicole's book is From Crisis to Calm.
From Crisis to Calm, Nicole Christensen.
Okay.
You can get it wherever books are sold.
Perfect.
Is there a place for to look up the 5 stages?
The Take Charge campaign?
The Take Charge campaign. Is that online somewhere? Or?
I think it's on actually Facebook. It's called Take Charge Campaign, I believe. Again, it's Pulse Center for Education and Safety. They have it up. They're a nonprofit here in New York. And I'll put up something for the Take Charge campaign so you know it's what it is on my Facebook page.
Cool. Okay. Very good.
All right.
Denise, final thoughts?
I'm just looking it up on Facebook. Final thoughts. Oh yeah, here we go. Take Charge campaign. Follow. Cool. Final thoughts. That was great. Very important. Being in the healthcare field for so long, it's really is a crime. Some things that happen to people because they have no family, they have no one looking out for them, and they don't understand what's going on with themselves. And it's an important thing that you do, and I commend you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to do it. I love what I do.
That's good. It's good. It's half the battle, right?
Yeah.
So we can find you on what? Tell us again.
Facebook, Care Answered on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find our website, careanswered.com. What else? Oh, and Instagram.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me, ladies. This was fun.
Thanks. Yeah, it was great. We hope everyone can come to since it's our last show. We hope everyone
have nothing more to say.
We hope everyone can come to our happy hour next week. Just pretty casual. Have a drink, say hello, meet everybody in person. We've had 3 of them already, 2 or 3 of them,
4.
And they've been fun. They've been so much fun, and it's good to get to know the people. And everybody brings them any services. People that come, they bring their information. They could answer questions for you. So it's a good time. Anyway. And we are going to take a break. And I think we might start up another season, maybe end of April, beginning of May. Our seasons are usually 6 weeks long. We took off, the holiday time and the last summer. So I think
the holidays, and when Denise goes away.
Yeah, I go away a lot, but I think we can fit another season in before the summer. So we'll see, but we'll keep everybody informed. And find us on Instagram and Facebook. And
join the group and tell us what other topics would you like to.
Yes, that would be great. Join our Facebook group, which is Senior Resource.
We don't know the name of our group.
I always get confused with this group.
I don't know it. She always knows it.
Where is it?
Senior
Resource Facebook group. I think I'm missing something. If you go to my
let me tell you what's the name.
If you go to my Denise Lanzarone
Senior Services Resource Group. That's the name of the group.
That's the name of the group. Okay. So if you go there and X to join, we will let you in. I mean, we post events on there, what's going on. I know Nicole has a great event coming up. We post our events, post information. So it's just an information site. It's good to be on it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And where they can find you before we go.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Denise Lanzarone. You come say hi. I live in Hop Hog. That's it.
That's it. Well, thank you everybody for being here and join these two crazy ladies. See you next week. Where, Denise?
So the happy hour is at Butterfields, which is on Old Willets Path in Hop Hog, right in the industrial park. It's going to be from 4 to 6. We'll buy you a drink. We'll have some appetizers and just come say hi.
So see you next week live. I hope to see everybody. Thank you for being here. You can find me everywhere as Sandra Roman Real Estate. And that's it. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye.
Bye.